Welcome everybody. I am Ganesh Narvade. Today we are going to discuss about section 43B. 43B is a section which talks about disallowance. That means we studied till now section 30 to 37. In that sections, they tell what are the expenses which are allowed as deduction. But section 43 puts a block. Section 43 is an overriding section which explains that even though the expenditures are allowed under section 30 to section 37, still whatever expenses mentioned here will be allowed only on payment basis. So here under 43B we will see certain list of items, and remember that items are allowed on cash basis only. That means they are allowed only when actual payment is done. What does this mean? They are not allowed on due basis. So by what time the payments should be done, which are mentioned under section 43B? The answer is before filing returns. So we file returns if you are dealing in international transactions by 30th November of the assessment year. If you are a tax audit assessee or you are under audit, then 30th September would be the due date. If you are not in international transactions, not even in audit, then before 31st July you file the returns. These are due dates specified under 139 subsection 1. So any expenditure pertaining to the previous year should be allowed as deduction on payment basis if they are paid before filing the returns under 139 subsection 1. If such expenses are mentioned under section 43B. Okay, to sum up, we are talking about section 43B expenditures. They allow the list given here only on actual payment basis. That means if the payment is done before return filing, it is allowed as deduction. Okay. So now section 145 is one section which says that under PGBP expenditure is allowed as deduction on the basis of method of accounting followed. So if you follow cash basis, then according to cash basis method. If you are following mercantile basis, under mercantile method. But that 145 would not be applicable here for the list of expenses which are specified under 43B. These are allowed on payment basis and no other section will be applicable. No other section will have anything to contradict 43B. Section 43B is the most powerful section and it will override all other sections. So let's see what are the items which are deductible on actual payment basis. If you are not subscribed to the channel, do subscribe to the channel. And yes, if you like the video, we would be very happy. So let's see the first item. The first item is taxes, duties, cess and fees. These four which are basically payable to government, are allowed on actual payment basis. Taxes here don't mean direct tax. Income tax is not covered here. Income tax is anyhow disallowed. Taxes here means goods and services tax. Duty here means customs duty. Taxes may be property taxes. Duty means customs duty. Cess means any cess paid on maybe in GST, or maybe any cess if it is payable in customs duties. Fees are that fees which are payable to government offices. Like if you are registered as company, you have to pay some fees to Ministry of Corporate Affairs while filing annual returns and all. So any taxes like GST, property taxes, duty, customs duty, cess, any cess like education cess which is applicable on customs duties, and fees payable to government, they are all allowed on actual payment basis. Second point, bonus and commission. Now bonus and commission are allowed on actual payment basis. Basically bonus and commission paid to employees are allowed on actual payment basis. So bonus is a part of profit distributed to the employees, and that are allowed on actual payment basis if paid before filing returns, as we discussed. Commission also same. But when it comes to bonus, there is an additional time given, that is till 30th November. Suppose our financial year is 1920. So from 1st April 2019 to 31st March 2020 is our previous year. And as per Bonus Act, bonus can be paid within 8 months from the end of previous year till 30th November. So even if it is paid till 30th November, we can claim the deduction in the previous year 1920. That means assessment year 2021. Commission, of course, before filing income tax return. Now, for doing the business, we take loans, and on the loans we have to pay interest. So that interest is also allowed on actual payment basis. So from whom we can take the loans? From public financial institutions like IDBI, Industrial Development Corp, IDBI, Industrial Development Bank of India, IFCI, Industrial Finance Corporation of India, LIC, Life Insurance Corporation of India. So like that, public financial institutions are those notified by the central government in the official gazette as public financial institutions. Second one is state financial corporations, and third one is state industrial investment corporations. If you take a loan from any of the three and on that you are paying interest, it would be allowed as deduction on actual payment basis. Perfect. Remember. Next, this is a bit complicated to see, and moreover, remember that it is an amendment provision, newly inserted provision. So we need to discuss it in more detail. So I'll do for you. Listen carefully. Now, if you took the loan from an NBFC, so you took the loan from whom? An NBFC. NBFC means non-banking financial companies. So non-banking finance companies are NBFCs. Like Bajaj Capital, Tata Capital, India Bulls Dhani. So these are NBFCs. That means they are not banks. They are just lending institutions. They just basically give loans. Now, if you have taken loan from such NBFCs and on that you paid some interest, that would be allowed as deduction on actual payment basis. Here, two types of NBFCs are covered: systematically important non-deposit taking NBFCs, and second one, deposit taking NBFCs. So what are they? Let us discuss in the next slide. Now, what is systematically important non-deposit taking NBFCs? Such a long sentence, right? Now, they are basically few conditions to satisfy. First, such NBFCs should not accept deposits from the public. Second, their assets, that means loan given, should be more than 500 crores. Third, they should be registered with RBI. So I said they should not accept deposits from the public. Second, they should have loans, that is assets. For NBFCs, giving loans is the assets, right? So more than 500 crores. And third, registered with RBI. If these three conditions are satisfied, then interest paid to such systematically important non-deposit taking NBFC will be allowed on actual cash basis. Suppose I took loan from Rudra Pratap Chits. So their turnover is something around, or loans are something around 100 crores. So they don't fall under this category. So for such Rudra Pratap Chits, which I took the loan, that would be allowed even if it is due. But suppose if it is a NBFC which is systematically important and they are not even accepting deposits, their assets, loans are more than 500 crores and they are registered with RBI. If these three conditions are satisfied, interest on such loans is allowed on actual payment basis. Remember. Okay. Next point. If deposit taking NBFCs like Bajaj Capital is a deposit taking NBFC, if they are registered with, obviously they are registered with RBI, then interest paid on the loan taken from them is allowed on actual payment basis. Very good. But what about deposits? Please understand, NBFCs cannot accept savings bank deposits. So here, when I am talking about deposits, they are fixed deposits only. So NBFCs can accept fixed deposits. So Bajaj Capital can only accept fixed deposits, that too long-term fixed deposits. Okay. So when I am talking about deposit taking NBFCs like Bajaj Capital, it is fixed deposits only, right, and that too long term. If they are registered with RBI, of course, interest on the loans taken will be allowed on actual payment basis. Great. Let's go to the next slide. Now, the next topic is also about loans only. Generally, we covered loans from financial institutions or state finance corporations or from state industrial investment corporations or from NBFCs. But many people take loans from banks like State Bank of India, like Union Bank of India. We take loans from banks. Many agriculturists or many people take loans from cooperative banks also. So that loans taken from scheduled banks and cooperative banks are allowed as deduction, but on payment basis. So interest on loans taken from scheduled banks and cooperative banks are allowed as deduction on actual payment basis. But primary agricultural credit societies, what I said, there are two items. Please remember these two items. Primary agricultural credit societies, primary cooperative agricultural and rural development banks. These two, interest is allowed even on due basis. So now this whole paragraph, divide it into two parts. Scheduled bank, cooperative bank. Loan taken, interest. Actual payment basis allowed. But if it is primary cooperative agricultural society or primary cooperative agricultural and rural development bank, in these two cases, even if it is due, interest is due, it is allowed as deduction. Clear? Second point. Here, generally employees work even on holidays. So if it is Sundays or any leaves, they work. So that all amount worked on leaves is called as leave encashment, and that paid to the employee by the employer, the leave encashment paid by the employer to the employee will be allowed on which basis? Actual payment basis. Now coming to the provident fund, employees provident fund, statutory provident fund, new pension, national pension scheme, or approved superannuation fund, or any employee welfare related fund where the employer contributes. Here I am talking about so many funds, but who is contributing? Employer is contributing. So employer is contributing to recognized provident fund, approved superannuation fund, gratuity fund, national pension scheme, or any employee welfare schemes. They are allowed as deduction on actual payment basis. And whenever I am telling actual payment basis, you remember, you know that the payment should either be done in the previous year or can be done before filing returns. Then deduction is given for the relevant previous year. Great. Now there are some notes. I already discussed that these all provisions are applicable to those assessee who follow mercantile basis of accounting under section 145. Why I am telling? Because those who follow cash basis of accounting, the deduction is allowed if they pay in the previous year. If they pay in the next year, deduction is allowed next year. So it is simple. Cash basis will be perfectly a cash book calculation. But those who are following mercantile basis, for them generally expenditures are even allowed if they are due. But those expenditures which are mentioned in 43B that we discussed till now are allowed on actual payment basis even if we are following mercantile basis of accounting. Okay, right. Suppose we are following cash basis, then what I said, deduction is allowed if paid in the previous year. Return filing date is not considered for cash basis. Please remember. Okay, very good. Now the very important thing I already explained to you, but let's understand it again. So what I said, that if you are following mercantile basis of accounting, then any expenditure listed under 43B like we discussed, that taxes, duties, cess, fees, bonus, commission, interest on borrowings, leave encashment, or provident fund contributed by the employer. Or one more point is there, uh, any amount which we have to pay to railways for the property or the assets of railways used by us. All such expenditures are allowed on actual payment basis. The payment can be done either in the previous year or before filing returns. But this condition is applicable only in relation to the previous year. Suppose I have to make the payment for the previous year 15-16, and of course I made the payment in 15-16, then 43B will not interrupt. You can claim the deduction. Suppose if the expenditure is in relation to 15-16 previous year and 43B items payment is done before filing returns. Suppose individual is there, so before 31st July of 2016. Then also no problem, you can claim deduction in 15-16 itself. But suppose the payment is done by the individual assessee on December 2016. That means after filing returns. Then the deduction is allowed in 16-17 previous year. Suppose the payment for 15-16 previous year is done in 19-20, then deduction is allowed in 19-20 previous year only. That means if the payment is delayed after return filing date also, that means it is not paid within the return filing date, then it is allowed in the year in which it is actually paid. Now coming to the next point. Sometimes we don't pay interest and the financial pressure is so much that we go to the banks, discuss with the banks and restructure the loans. That means all interest would be added and a new loan would be created. If restructuring happens of the interest, the old loan would be cancelled and the new loan agreement is created. So here, did we actually pay the interest? The answer is it is nothing but a book entry. Old loan cancelled, new loan created with a bigger amount. Here interest is paid in books, not actually. So deduction is not allowed. So deduction is not allowed. Now, I said about NBFCs to all of you till now. These NBFCs like Bajaj Capital, India Bulls, Dhani, Tata Capital, these all points, these all companies, the interest on loan taken from NBFCs is allowed on actual payment basis, I said. But this provision is introduced from this year only. Suppose some interest was there relating to 17-18 year for such NBFCs, and that interest is allowed on due basis in the year 17-18, because cash basis condition is allowed from 19-20 only. So 17-18 we claimed on accrual basis, and the interest relating to 17-18 which we allowed as on accrual basis in that year, we actually paid in 19-20. Can we claim a deduction again? The law says no double deduction. So if you have already claimed deduction on accrual basis, you cannot claim a deduction on cash basis again. So something which you did not claim as deduction, of course you can claim as deduction now. But if you already claimed on accrual basis, you cannot claim it as on cash basis again. So this is the very important point. If you are still not liked the video, please like the video and comment how did you feel about the video. Let's go to the next slide. Now, there are some cases where employees contribute to the provident fund. Who contribute? Employee contribute to the provident fund. Of course, when recognized provident fund is there, employee also contributes, employer also contributes. It is quite common for all of us. So when employee contributes the money, it is basically deducted from the employee's salary and kept with the employer. When it is kept with the employer, it is treated as the income of the employer. It is treated as what? Income of the employer. Sir, it is too wrong, right? Don't worry. Now, when the employer deposits the money with the provident fund office or in the relevant fund for the benefit of the employee, then the employer will get the deduction. So what did you understand? So let's go back to the slide. So here, when employer deducted the amount from employee's salary, it is treated as employer's income. And here what happened? When the employer deposited in the relevant fund as per the relevant law, then the deduction is given to the employer. But there is a very strict condition, stringent condition, that the employer should deposit before the due date of the respective law. Suppose, as per the Provident Fund Law, EPF Act 1952, January month's Provident Fund contribution should be deposited before 15th February. If it is done before 15th February, then no problem. If it is not deposited till 15th February, then employer will not get the deduction. So January month salary, employee will be paid on 31st January or maybe on 5th February. So if it is salary is paid to the employee and provident fund is deducted, it should be deposited before 15th February as per the law. If it is done within that time given by the law, no problem. Employer will get the deduction. If not deposited as per the law within the due date, employer will not get the deduction. Will never get the deduction. That is very important to understand. In all the discussions what we did in 43B, if the payment is done later on, the company, the organization will get the deduction later on. But when it comes to employees' contribution, which is deducted by the employer from the employee's salary, it would be considered as income of the employer and will be given as deduction only if deposited as per the law before the due date given in the law. If delayed or not paid, no deduction. Deduction is not given at all. So this is all about section 43B. We discussed each and every point in detail. So subscribe to the channel for more videos on taxation and law, and to know about the multiple courses. Now, subscribe, share, like the video, and comment how did you feel about the video. And finally, Ganesh Narvade signing off. Thank you for patient listening.